The story of Katherine Knight, cannibal killer. Katherine Knight was raised in an unconventional and dysfunctional family. Her mother, Barbara, had been married to Jack Rowan and lived with him in the small town of Aberdeen in New South Wales, Hunter Valley. Barbara and Jack had 4 sons before Barbara began an adulterous relationship with Ken Knight, a friend and co-worker of her husband. The Rowan and Knight families were well known in the conservative rural town, and the affair caused a major scandal. Local backlash forced Barbara and Ken to move to Maury. Her 2 eldest boys continued to reside with their father, while the 2 younger sons were sent to be raised by an aunt in Sydney. Barbara had 4 additional children with Ken, including twin girls born in 1955 in Tenderfield. Katherine Knight was the younger of these twin daughters. Knight's father was an alcoholic who openly used violence and intimidation and would rape his wife Barbara up to 10 times a day. Barbara in turn often told her daughters intimate details of her sex life and how much she hated sex and men. Later, when Knight complained to her mother that one of her partners wanted her to take part in a sex act she did not want to perform, Barbara told her to put up with it and stop complaining. Knight claimed she was frequently sexually assaulted by several members of her family, which continued until she was aged 11. Although there are doubts about the details, psychiatrists accept her claims, and the events have been largely confirmed by other members of the family. Knight attended Muswell Brook High School but became a loner and is remembered by classmates as a bully who stood over smaller children. She assaulted at least one boy at school with a weapon and was once injured by a teacher, who subsequently found to have acted in self-defense. Surprisingly, when not in a rage, Knight was a model student and often earned awards for good behavior. At 15, without having learned to read or write, she gained employment as a cutter in a clothing factory. 12 months later, she left to start what she referred to as her dream job, cutting up offal at the local abattoir. There she was quickly promoted to boning and was given her own set of butcher knives. At home, the knives were hung over her bed so that they would always be handy if she needed them, a habit she continued until her incarceration everywhere she lived. Knight first met co-worker David Stanford Kellett in 1973. Kellett engaged in heavy drinking, which stemmed from 2 traumatic incidents from his previous railway job in Coffs Harbour. First, when his best friend was killed in front of him in a shunting accident, and later when he rescued injured occupants of a school bus in Kempsey which had been struck by a train, killing 6 children. He eventually lost the job due to deteriorating behavior and performance, but he soon got work at the nearby Aberdeen abattoir and became close friends with Knight's brother. Often, if Kellett got into a fight, Knight would step in and back him up with her fists. In Aberdeen, she was well known for physically threatening anyone who upset her. Knight married Kellett in 1974 at her request, with the couple arriving at the service on her motorcycle with a very intoxicated Kellett on the pillion. As soon as they arrived, Knight's mother Barbara gave Kellett some advice. The old girl said to me, "Watch out. You better watch this one or she'll kill you. Stir her up the wrong way or do the wrong thing and you're screwed. Don't ever think of cheating on her. She'll kill you." And that was her mother talking. She told me she's got something loose. She's got a screw loose somewhere. On their wedding night, Knight tried to strangle Kellett. She later explained it was because he fell asleep after only having intercourse 3 times. The marriage proved violent, and on one occasion, a heavily pregnant Knight burned all of Kellett's clothing and shoes before hitting him across the back of the head with a frying pan, simply because he had arrived home late from a darts competition. In fear for his life, Kellett fled before collapsing in a neighbor's house and was treated for a severely fractured skull. Police wanted to charge Knight, but she changed her behavior to ingratiating Kellett and talked him into dropping the charges. In May 1976, shortly after the birth of their first child, Melissa Ann, Kellett left Knight for another woman and moved to Queensland, apparently unable to cope with the abuse. The next day, Knight was seen pushing her new baby in a pram down the main street, violently throwing the pram from side to side. She was admitted to St. Elmo's Hospital in Tamworth, where she was diagnosed with postnatal depression. After being released, Knight placed 2-month-old Melissa on a railway line shortly before a train was due. She then stole an axe, went into town, and threatened to kill several people. A vagrant known in the district as Old Ted, who was foraging near the railway line, found and rescued Melissa, by all accounts only minutes before the train passed. Knight was arrested and again taken to St. Elmo's Hospital, but apparently she recovered and signed herself out the following day. A few days later, Knight slashed the face of a woman with one of her knives and demanded she drive her to Queensland to find Kellett. The woman escaped after they stopped at a service station, but by the time police arrived, Knight had taken a young boy hostage and was threatening him with a knife. She was disarmed when police attacked her with brooms and was admitted to the Morisset Psychiatric Hospital. Knight told the nurses she had intended to kill the mechanic at the service station because he had repaired Kellett's car, which had allowed him to leave and then kill both her husband and his mother when she arrived in Queensland. When police informed Kellett of the incident, he left his girlfriend and moved to Aberdeen with his mother to support Knight. Knight was released on August 9, 1976, into the care of her mother-in-law, and along with Kellett, moved to Ipswich, a city west of Brisbane, where she obtained a job at the Dinmore Meat Works. On March 6, 1983, they had another daughter, Natasha Marie. In 1984, Knight left Kellett and moved first to her parents' house in Aberdeen, then to a rented house in nearby Muswellbrook. Although she returned to work at the abattoir, she injured her back the following year and went on disability pension. No longer needing to rent accommodation close to her work, the government gave her a housing commission residence in Aberdeen. In 1997, Knight became pregnant by 43-year-old former abattoir co-worker John Chillingworth and gave birth the following year to a boy they named Eric. Their relationship lasted 3 years before she left him for a man she had been having an affair with for some time, John Price. John Charles Thomas Price was the father of 3 children when Knight had an affair with him. His own marriage had ended in 1988. While his 2-year-old daughter had remained with his former wife, the 2 older children lived with him. Price was well aware of Knight's violent reputation as she moved into his house in 1995. His children liked her, and he was making a lot of money working in the local mines, and apart from violent arguments at first, life was a bunch of roses. In 1998, Knight and Price fought over his refusal to marry her. In retaliation, she videotaped items he had allegedly stolen from work and sent the tape to his boss. Although the items were out-of-date medical kits that he had scavenged from the company rubbish tip, Price was fired from the job he had held for 17 years, as his boss had no choice. That same day, he kicked her out, and she returned to her own home. A few months later, Price restarted the relationship, although he now refused to allow her to move in with him. The fighting became even more frequent, and most of his friends would no longer have anything to do with him while they remained together. In February 2000, a series of assaults on Price culminated with Knight stabbing him in the chest. Finally fed up, he kicked her out of his house. On 29th of February, he stopped at the Scone Magistrates Court on his way to work and took out a restraining order in an attempt to keep her away from both himself and his children. That afternoon, Price told his co-workers that if he did not come to work the next day, it would be because Knight had murdered him. Despite their pleas that Price should not return home, he stated that he was afraid Knight would kill his children if he did not. Price arrived home to find that Knight, although not there herself, had sent the children away for a sleepover at a friend's house. At 6 a.m. the next day, the neighbor became concerned that Price's car was still in the driveway, and when he did not arrive at work, his employer sent a worker to see what was wrong. Both the neighbor and the worker tried knocking on Price's bedroom window to wake him, but they alerted police after noticing blood on the front door. Police arrived at 8 a.m., breaking down the back door. Police found Price's body with Knight comatose from taking a large number of pills. She had stabbed Price with a butcher's knife while he was sleeping. According to the blood evidence, he awoke and tried to turn the light on before attempting to escape while Knight chased him through the house. He managed to open the front door and get outside, but he either stumbled back inside or was dragged back into the hallway, where he finally died after bleeding out. Later, Knight went into Aberdeen and withdrew $1,000 from Price's account at an ATM. Price's autopsy revealed that he had been stabbed at least 37 times in both the front and back of his body, with many of the wounds extending into vital organs. Several hours after Price had died, Knight skinned him and hung the skin from a meat hook on the architrave of a door to the lounge room. She then decapitated Price and cooked parts of his body, serving up the meat with baked potato, pumpkin, beetroot, zucchini, cabbage, yellow squash, and gravy in 2 settings at the dinner table, along with notes beside each plate, each having the name of one of Price's children on it. She was preparing to serve his body parts to his children. A third meal was thrown on the back lawn for unknown reasons, and it was speculated that Knight had attempted to eat it but could not. This has been put forward in support of her claim that she has no memory of the crime. Price's head was found in a pot with vegetables. The pot was still warm, estimated to be at between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius, indicating that the cooking had taken place in the morning. Sometime later, Knight arranged the body with the left arm draped over an empty 1.25-liter soft drink bottle with the legs crossed. This was claimed in court to be an act of defilement, demonstrating Knight's contempt for Price. Ultimately, Knight pleaded guilty to the murder of John Price. No reason has ever been given for the guilty plea, and despite giving it, Knight still refuses to accept responsibility for her actions. This was the story of Katherine Mary Knight, Cannibal Killer. Please like, comment, and subscribe.